Don't call it a comeback!
Just before David Haye defended his WBA title against Audley Harrison, he intended to be out of boxing by 2010. That's what he said. 2 more fights after that. Tollgate against Klitschko in 2011. And then the All-British Showdown against Derek Chisora in 2012. He retired for 4 years. After that, came back for a couple of Euro cream puffs in 2016. Tony Bellew ended his career after first defeating him in 2017, then 2018. He retired, and now he's back to fight Joe Fournier, who is 9-0 as a pro. David says this isn't a comeback. This is about teaching there are levels in boxing. One must stay in the lane or risk getting flattened. He says Joe, the billionaire Fournier, needs to learn that you can't buy everything. Champions are born, not bought. Now his opponent is a light heavyweight who has fought as low as 165. He fought last year in April, and he weighed 187 for that. His opponent was woefully outweighed by 10 pounds, and he scored a second round retirement win. Now, you hear what his nickname is, Joe the Billionaire, so we know he has money. He's an entrepreneur. He set up his own fitness business before selling it to a FTSE 100 company. How does he beat David Haye in a fight, though? He's 9-0. He's won all of his fights by knockout. Whether that will mean anything by the time he fights David Haye, I'm not sure. I believe he's beat one opponent with a winning record. This will be on the Oscar De La Hoya Vitor Belfort undercard. Anderson Silva takes on Tito Ortiz, and John O'Carroll takes on Andy Vences for the vacant World Boxing Council International Super Featherweight title on the 11th of September this year. Man, there's some strange boxing cards in these days and times, especially in America. Never thought we'd see boxing cards like this just a few years back, or even just a year or so back. I'm not surprised that David Haye has came out of retirement to take this fight, not one bit. David Haye has got a bit of an ego. I was never convinced he was totally satisfied ending his career, getting beaten up by Tony Bellew. And let's not forget money, which could be the biggest motivating factor behind this, is money. Now, you know, a lot of people saying, oh, he's broke. It's not a matter of being broke or speculating on a man is broke. Why are we speculating that? Everybody needs money. And David Haye's no exception. You need money. I need money. David Haye needs money. Who doesn't need money except Joe Fournier? From what I remember, they were friends, Fournier and David Haye, and they may still well be. Fournier actually fought on one of David Haye's cards when David had them 2 comeback fights at the O2 in 2016. Yeah, it says here in the mirror they've trained together, they're longtime friends. Fournier's fought on David Haye's card, taken holidays together. Haye was even Fournier's manager for a period of his career. And the idea to take each other on actually came while the duo was sunning themselves on vacation. Haye said the whole fight between us came into existence when at dinner with a group in Mykonos, we were asked who would win in a fight between us. David laughed, but out of respect for Joe's ego suggested it would be close, maybe a draw, whilst winking to Joe. Joe's straight-faced response was very different. He was deadly serious, stating he would win in a fight today. And Haye said he assumed it was the tequila talking. And that's exactly where it started. A boozy night in Mykonos. 2 alpha males peacocking with a crowd of girls. 2 weeks later, David said he was happily retired from boxing with no intentions to make a traditional comeback to challenge the monsters of the division. But he said he's fit and ready to prove his point against an overconfident billionaire buddy. Haye has admitted that the clash has come about as a result of the pair being drunk and wanting to prove themselves, revealing the fight is the ultimate battle of egos. Like I said earlier, David Haye got an ego. The outcome of some drunken bar banter. And Haye says he has to teach him some manners to a dear but delusional friend of his, Joe Fournier. Joe's biggest accomplishment in boxing is being ranked number 10 in the world by who? the WBA, of course, whilst holding the WBA international belt at light heavy 5 years ago. And he fought one opponent with a winning record and they ranked him number 10. This sanctioning body, man, I think that's more a pressing issue than this story here. I wonder how a billionaire who's fought one fighter with a winning record managed to get a top 10 ranking from the WBA. I wonder. Eddie Hearn had a few words to say on it. What stuck out to me is when the interviewer said, David Haye's going to stretch him out. And Eddie said, nah, I don't think so. Almost like they've got it planned. David might not go out there to hurt Joe. This is an elaborate plan to rob the bank. Eddie seemed to be suggesting they might choreograph a fight more than they actually fight. But without him saying it's fixed, it's going to be hard for them to do that. This is a professional contest. It's not an exhibition bout. An exhibition can be competitive or it can be a showcase exhibition. You have the choice to present it how you want to present it. But a professional contest, there's a liability to fight to win. So they better not try none of them shenanigans that Eddie seemed to be suggesting. So it's going to be on Triller in the Staples Center, Los Angeles. I don't see Haye losing it. But if he struggles in this fight, it would be the equivalent of a loss considering the levels and the size difference between the two men. But he looks fit and strong still, David Haye. He looks lighter than when he was actually fighting. Anthony Joshua is taking extreme caution not to contract the coronavirus. He apparently did have it and had the antibodies, whereas Tyson Fury didn't take his second jab. He then contracted the virus and had to postpone the July date with Deontay Wilder, even though he was declared corona-free a little while ago. He was seen in the UK and he was recording an episode of The Latest Show on Channel 4. You would have thought Fury would be taking a more low-key approach as the fight between Wilder has been rescheduled for October. Anthony Joshua will not be doing any sort of appearances like that. The first press conference between AJ and USYK won't take place until fight week, so they're being extremely cautious. David Benavidez has tested positive for COVID-19, postponing his August the 28th date on Showtime versus Usyk, according to Mike Coppinger. PBC cards going down like flies. This is on the back of Errol Spence having to pull out of the Manny Pacquiao fight with a torn retina. KAVALAUSKAS is going to be Virgil Ortiz's sternest test on paper, although he had a few issues with Morris Hooker last time out. KAVALAUSKAS says there's going to be fireworks. He said of Ortiz, he's a tough fighter, a good fighter. I like his style. I think he's going to be a super good fight. But KAVALAUSKAS said he's hyped for this fight. He's been waiting for this fight. It's going to be very interesting. He says he wants to get in the ring with him. KAVALAUSKAS, 22-1, one draw, a decorated amateur who represented his homeland of Lithuania twice in the Olympics. Last fought Mikhail Zuzki in September, knocking him out in the 8th. He dropped Terence Crawford in a title attempt in December 2019 before getting stopped. At 33 years of age, KAVALAUSKAS doesn't have much time to waste. Ortiz at 23 years of age, 10 years younger, has the advantage in youth. I don't know if it would be an upset if KAVALAUSKAS gave Ortiz a working over. I don't know if that would be an upset. KAVALAUSKAS, 18 stoppages in 22 wins, 1 defeat to Terence Crawford and 1 draw with the very capable Ray Robinson. Ortiz, 17 wins, 17 by stoppage, no defeats, no losses. It's a great matchup, and the DAZN app has you covered. If you purchased it, great value. Could be just bad luck for the PBC. I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Few warning signs to watch out for Fury and Wilder, with John Fury threatening to sue Deontay Wilder about any accusations of Tyson Fury, his son, cheating. And Tyson Fury's newborn child has been in and out of the ICU. And a lot of people are asking, is Fury's mind where it needs to be for this fight? Fury has been raising funds for those taking care of his baby, the hospital staff. Then there's the stories of the sparring sessions. Apparently, he didn't do too well against the likes of Jared Anderson. how badly you got beaten up. I don't know. But it's sparring. People get beaten up in sparring. More common than what you think, you know, for big name fighters getting a beating in sparring. It's more common than what you think. Will he make it to the ring on October the 9th? Deontay Wilder seems to be just getting on with it, training. Him and Malik Scott. Malik seems to be putting a lot of stock into the sparring stories, saying that Fury got turned over. Well, he could be right. I don't think he should put too much stock into that, and they should prepare for the best Tyson Fury no matter what. Okay, so Gloria Martinez-Rizzo has been suspended for 6 months by the WBA for a 117-110 scorecard in favor of Gabriel Maestre against Mikhail Fox for the interim WBA welterweight title on Saturday gone. The 6-month suspension is also for the discovery of tweets that were deemed racist that she put out about Michelle Obama. So Mendoza plans to meet with Rizzo in Miami this week to discuss the discipline, which could include expulsion from WBA sanctioned fights. They said, "We saw her score was wrong despite the unanimous decision." This is what Mendoza told ESPN. The comments she made in the past, she might be expelled by the WBA. Mendoza said he doesn't support any kind of racism. He believes in equality. Well, here's what I want to know. What about the other 2 judges who scored in favor of Maestre? Like John Mariano, who scored it 115-112. What about him? And Dave Singh, who turned in a 114-113 scorecard. All of them should be getting some kind of disciplinary action taken against them for their scorecards. There is no way, well, at least in my opinion, I guess, that Maestre won that fight. Just no way. No way at all. Mendoza is trying to schedule a rematch between the 2 fighters. Kevin Iole claims they've changed the result to a no contest. Now, I haven't heard anything official, but Kevin is more connected to the industry than I am, so if they've done that, it was a needed action that needed to be took. Bloody WBA again. So Rigondeaux will be stripped of his secondary WBA belt when he steps in the ring against John Riel Casimiro on Saturday. This is all part of this initiative to reduce the number of WBA titles, intentionally or otherwise. We have learnt through the media that you will fight John Riel Casimiro on August the 14th in Carson. Carlos Chavez, chairman of the WBA Championship Committee, addressed this to Rigondeaux in an official letter, a copy of which has been obtained by BoxingScene.com. Due to restrictions on behalf of the WBO, the fight will not be for the WBA title. You know, this isn't the first belt they've took from Rigondeaux. Were you going to drop him out the rankings as well if he doesn't beat Casimiro? It looks like they're being very selective how they're doing this. I don't know. I'm not reading all the content to the ruling. Maybe another time. I just can't be bothered. Seems like they're penalising him for taking a good fight. I mean, Tank Davis has still got his belt. So what? As long as Tank doesn't try and unify that belt, he can keep it. And it seems to me that the WBO don't recognize that second tier belt. They don't recognize it. But at the same time, you got to think of it like this. Say if Rigondeaux chose to fight a lesser opponent than Casimiro without a belt, they wouldn't be stripping him. So because he's taken a fairly risky fight, he's being punished and penalized. They took his super bantamweight belt when Quigg, who was the mandatory, wouldn't fight Rigondeaux, and then when a busload of contenders wouldn't fight him, they stripped him and gave Quigg the title, and then Quigg had a unified fight with Frampton. Anyway, I bet you any money they don't touch Tank's belt, no matter what. I bet you any money, and I bet they're not going to try and force him to fight Josh Taylor. There's a few things that Anthony Sims needs to realize. Okay, so he lost his last fight by a split decision, and Matchroom cut his contract, and he says Eddie Hearn told him he doesn't have what it takes to be a champion. That's what he said. Now, the likes of Michael Hunter and Anthony Sims are getting the more ruthless side of Eddie Hearn and what he portrays on the camera. Hunter drew with Povetkin in a fight I thought he won, and they cut his contract. He was hurt, you know, he was DMing Eddie and messaging him, and he says Eddie wasn't getting back to him. And obviously he's in his feelings. He said, you know who should have got cut is Anthony Joshua. He let this fat Mexican knock him out. but he still kept his contract. Now, I'm not going to explain why that's a ridiculous comparison between him and AJ. I'm not going to explain why. I mean, why bother? He's in his feelings. Then he starts attacking British fighters, saying they're not taken seriously in America. And that's probably true. That is probably true. I don't think British fighters these days are that desperate to be accepted by America anymore. I don't see that need. And I'm just going to say it as I believe it is. I just don't believe a lot of people around the world believe American boxing is the force it used to be. There's a few Americans you can't tell that to. They get very upset. But that's what I believe. He spoke about Tyson Fury, how he's got balls and glory and all this and that, and they accept him. And he seems to think that he has this great fan base in the UK. And maybe he does, but I don't know of it. He was saying, why is Eddie making me fight in America when my fan base is in the UK? He says that Legacy Management, who I believe have a card in Dubai, maybe this Saturday or Saturday next, treat him like family. It's a family atmosphere. I would advise you to have a more pragmatic approach to it, because this is very early days into that relationship. And from what I saw of him, he needs to start performing, or he's going to find that friendly atmosphere turns to an atmosphere of, are you world class or not? Are you going to cut it? Or do we have to cut you? And then he seemed to be taking some shots that Eddie was not successful in America. Well, I'll tell you what, he done a lot better than Al Heyman did with his venture in the UK market. Well, if that's the case, well, Eddie is now Canelo's promoter. Arguably, not arguably, he is the cash cow of American boxing. Now, if he's saying, oh, you can't turn no American fighters into stars, well, neither can Al Heyman, and neither can Bob Arum. That's just where American boxing is right now. Bob Arum arguably has the most talented fighter in the world on his roster, and he's had him there quite a time. And he can't turn that kid from Nebraska into a household name. I mean, what happened to Chris Eubank and Al Heyman? I don't know if Al told him to kick rocks. I know he got one fight after the DeGale fight in the UK, and he was on the sideline for over a year, maybe 2 years, before the Sounds picked him up. And to be honest, there isn't much happening since he's been picked up by the Sounds. That's just what happens. Fighters become obsolete. You need to be turning in great performances, you know? That's what you need to be doing. Eubank looked pretty good against James DeGale, and he could have been the face of Al Heyman's campaign in the UK. But Al didn't follow up. He was either incapable, or he said, well, I'm just going to count my losses here. All the PBC followers were saying, he's going to ruin Eddie's business and it's going to be an Al Heyman takeover. Didn't happen. Right now, Al doesn't have any fighters from this side of the world, either Europe or Ireland. He had quite a few at one stage, but everyone's cutting their cloth. Eddie said DAZN are not going to be making any more purse bids like the one they made for Teofimo and Kambosos. They could have got stuck with that fight if Triller didn't make that ridiculous bid. So Anthony was just a casualty of belt tightening in boxing. I mean, like, what's up with this Legacy Promotions? His next opponent has a record of 8-3-0. 2 of the losses are by knockout. And this is for a WBA Intercontinental belt. He better not struggle against this guy. He better not. When Eddie cut the contract, I didn't see the PBC reaching out for this guy. People are tightening their belts. The PBC fighters are pretty inactive. Al Heyman cannot keep them working as actively as they should be. Adrian Broner the other day was begging Al Heyman for fights, complaining that Al's got him on some allowance of $1,000 a day or $1,500 a day. Now, Keyshawn Davis, who got a silver in the Olympics, and Eddie was saying, look, the exposure that Keyshawn has got from going over to Hong Kong and getting that silver medal, and the performances he's put on DAZN cards. He's fought 3 times, 2 on DAZN, and 1 was an ESPN top rank card. Jamil Herring and Frampton, I believe. But Eddie's making a play for him now, because he's hot. Promoters are attracted to heat. Eddie might not get the signature, because Bob Arum might make a play for him. Maybe Al Heyman. He's hot. I'm not here to defend Eddie Hearn, there's a lot of people sticking the knife in after hearing what he'd done to Anthony Sims. But the sporting world is the sporting world. If you was to go to some of the football clubs out here, and the amount of kids who get cut, who think they're going to be the next big thing, next Raheem Sterling, Lionel Messi, Jack Grealish, Jorginho, Insigne, yo, most of you ain't going to make it. And before anyone says anything stupid, I've been the main person talking about Eddie and jobs for the boys. And a lot of people know what I'm talking about when I say that. Reece Bellotti has lost 4 times. He's yet to rise above domestic level. He gets another shot at Raymond Ford on Saturday at trying to make a name for himself on a Matchroom card. And, you know, Raymond Ford, he's battling for his place as well. He's an American, an African-American like Tony Sims. He only managed a draw in his last fight against an opponent who was 10-0. He needs to produce on Saturday. He knows that. So he's made his way over to Fight Camp, Essex, Brentwood, this Saturday on the Boatsi Bolotniks card. And you can basically say they're both fighting for their place on Matchroom. That's what they're doing right now. It's cutthroat like that. What did I call Michael Mickinson, who's on the card? I called him Michael Winner Stays On Mickinson, because that's what his fight with Chris Congo was. Chris Congo fought on a few Matchroom cards. Michael Mickinson asked Eddie Hearn, is it winner stays on, Eddie? And he won the fight. And he gets another shot at trying to stabilize a position on Matchroom. But he needs to win. He needs to win. He needs to keep the momentum going. He knows that. I don't know what Chris Congo's doing. He could be waiting for the phone to ring. But kids like Reece Bellotti, it seems they have a relationship with Eddie. He was a good ticket seller at one stage. So he's got more chances than a lot of other fighters are going to get. Eddie also started speaking about the likelihood of the BBC putting on highlight programs for some of the DAZN cards. So even if you ain't got the subscription, you might get to see some boxing on the BBC very soon. The BBC have already acquired the rights to some Matchroom cards for radio broadcasts, so watch out for that. They're also talking to Instagram and Facebook about doing deals for content.